is historical time, secular historical time. As talking specifically in relation to the work of Zizek, what we have to do is to shift our perspective back onto our modes of representation to bring into view two hidden forms of violence. So we already see subjective, visible violence, and what we have to do is to make visible an invisible violence, which is actually the objective violence, which becomes systemic particularly in all forms of the state. And the one that I'm going to focus on, which is part of the objective violence, is the idea of symbolic violence, which is to do with language, our thought patterns, and how they become completely normative. So, as I said, I'm engaged in writing this volume on Sikhism. And really, as I was writing it, the only way you can write it is to kind of write a history of Sikhism. But then, there's a real problem here. As you write history, as you accept the normativity of secular time and that mode of consciousness that you're working within, it silences the traditional sources. And that's partly what I was trying to do here and why I've hit on the idea of the war machine, to try and use that to leverage a deeper understanding of the traditional sources. So as you can see here, the chapters go something like this, representing violence, and then sovereign violence. So instead of beginning with Guru Nanak, this chapter on sovereign violence is actually just a standard history of Guru Nanak. But I've called it sovereign violence because I think the idea of a deeper, a more interior violence, which is actually non-violent violence, or the non-violence of the war machine, is something that I call sovereign violence, and that has to do with Guru Nanak, that quietist figure. So it's somewhere in that quietism that I'm trying to tease out this thing.